Today we are going to talk about these United States of America. It is time. I have officially been living here for 8.5 months now. I am born and raised in Johannesburg, South Africa. I lived there until I was 23 years old. I then moved to an island called Bahrain. If you don't know where that is, Google it. When I was 23, and I've been living there for the last 8 years. It's an amazing island. If you ever get a chance to go and visit, you definitely must. It's a place like no other, and you wouldn't know it until you've actually been there. No, I didn't just fly from South Africa, land here in America, and now have all these complaints. No, I've traveled extensively. I've been to the US. I've been to 16 out of the 50 states. Obviously, where I live now to where I lived before, there are many differences in so many ways. Also compare what living in the US is like to what it's like to live in South Africa, because even though we are in Africa, we do not live in mud huts and wear animal skins. We are a very developed and westernized country, so we have access to pretty much the same things as the rest of the world. It's always weird because when people meet me and they're like, where are you from? And then I'm like, I'm from South Africa. And they're like, oh, but you don't look like someone who's from South Africa. And then my next question to them is like, have you actually been to South Africa? Like, do you know what South African people look like? Because if you did, you would know that I look like a South African person. So I didn't actually think the adjustment of living here would be that difficult. It's gonna be easy. No, it was not. Let me just tell you. It still isn't. Like, I feel like even though I've been here for 8.5 months already, I learned something new pretty much every day. Plus, we live in Florida. So you have like America, and then you have Florida, which is like a little country on its own. One of the biggest struggles I've had since I got here is actually my name. We pronounce A's, so we would say I can't do something. But then American people would say, I can't do this. Like, that's how they pronounce the A's. So my name has 3 A's in it. So this is a constant battle that I have all the time, because I go somewhere and they're like, tell me your name. And then I'll be like, Natasha. And then they kind of like, can you say that again? And I'm like, Natasha. And then they're like, oh, can you spell it for me? Oh, Natasha. And I'm just like, it's the same thing. Given I do think that my accent throws people off a little bit, but it's not that different, you know. So I actually used to come home and then I used to like try and train myself, you know, walk around the house and be, what's your name? Natasha. But then the moment I get in front of somebody asking me what's my name, like I flake under pressure, and then I'm just like, it's Natasha. Basically, 31 years of living this identity of Natasha, and now I'm completely somebody else. Another thing that was like a big shock to my system, this whole filling gas or petrol, we call it petrol in South Africa, but this whole thing of filling gas by yourself, like, this is unnecessary. Like, I come from what is considered a third world country. When I go to the gas station, somebody fills the gas for me. Like, America, why are you DIYing everything? Hire people, make jobs, get somebody to pump your gas for you. This is the least I would expect from a first world country, like somebody to pump my gas, because I don't want to do it myself. The thing is, like, why is everything a drive-through? Pharmacy drive-through, the bank is a drive-through, you get a liquor store drive-through. Like, there's a lot of things that's a drive-through here in America. You have to know that these drive-throughs existed before COVID. So it's not like, okay, because there was a pandemic, now we made drive-throughs. No, like, you don't have to make everything a drive-through. It's convenient, not gonna lie, it is definitely convenient, but it's crazy. Another thing is bottomless drinks. Like, who came up with this idea? Also, how do you drink so many drinks with your one meal? Like, sometimes I feel like ashamed that I can't drink more than one drink, you know. The waiter will come and he'd be like refilling my husband's drink, and here I am not even halfway through my first drink, you know. Like, I understand from a cost point of view, I definitely do, but like, That's not healthy. If you can drink more than one drink with your meal, that is not healthy. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. Come fight me if you want to. I don't care. You don't realize how much like what you grew up with around you classifies as normal until you live somewhere else. And then you're like, oh, well, actually, that isn't normal. Another thing that's really difficult is the whole world uses the metric system. It's not even just South Africa, you know. But then America, they use the imperial system. Like a typical example was I was flying my drone the other day, and then my husband was like, don't go more than 50 feet. And I was like, firstly, I don't know how far 50 feet is, because I don't. Like, it means I have to convert it into kilometers or meters, you know, and like, I'm just flying my drone. I'm not trying to do maths over here. You think it's something simple, but it's like when I go to the store, I have to mentally prepare myself to be like, whatever I want, either convert it or kind of just be like, oh, well, that looks like enough. Where I live specifically, there's not a very big amount of diversity. So for me, I always feel kind of like the odd one out, not because I look different, but because, of course, the moment I speak, everybody around me knows that I'm not from here. And then it obviously gets people curious, and then they ask you questions. The other day I was at the gym. The instructor obviously saw that I was new to her class, so she asked what my name was. And obviously when I said my name, I told you guys the whole situation with that. And then she was like, oh, I noticed an accent. And then I was like, yeah. And she was like, where you from? And I was like, I'm from South Africa. And she was like, oh, okay. I had a friend. She was from Johannesburg. And I was like, yeah, me too. That's where I'm from. And then she was like, so do you speak Afrikaans? I was like, yeah, I do. And she was like, so like, what kind of language is it, Afrikaans? I was like, it's kind of like a mix between like Dutch and German, because like if a Dutch or German person is speaking, we can understand some of the words. Note, I said we can understand some of the words. And then later in the class, she was like, so can you tell me how to say awesome in German? Obviously at this point I was just sweating myself dead in the class, so I wasn't even interested in her. But I'm just like, do you understand that understanding certain words and speaking is completely different when it comes to languages, you know? So in that way, I wish people would just educate themselves before putting their foot in their mouth. Because like, as a foreigner, I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, wow, you are not the smartest smarty in the box. Yes, it's a very honest mistake, but I mean, like, it puts you in a spot, because now the whole class is waiting for me to give them the answer to the word awesome in German. And I don't speak any German. One of the big things people ask me is like, your accent is not changing. And I will say that my accent will likely never change. I have lived out of my home country for the last 9 years almost, and I still speak like a South African. To be fair, it's one of the reasons that my husband loves me. He used to tell me when we first started dating, I can listen to you speak all the time. I love your accent. I'm pretty sure that 6 years later, he regrets those words really badly. Let's say if you know somebody who lives somewhere that's not their home country, just be nice to them. Try and be a friend to them, because it is hard. It's harder than you realize. There's a lot of things that you have to adjust to. But yeah, it's been fun. I'm okay, you know, I'm surviving. Thank you guys for watching. As always, it's a pleasure. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also, follow me on Instagram.